great.
She got a boy. She got a wish. She got a boy.
That's brilliant.
Your husband. That was the Friday that you talked when she was talking to her on FaceTime. And then Mum laughed and she talked it. I never knew it. Aww.
That's brilliant. Yeah.
And what we'll get you to do is get everyone to lift at the same time, and we'll take the trolley out from underneath, and I'll get you to place up here. Okay.
if I have my glasses. Judy, could you please say hello to those overseas? Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and good afternoon to our people overseas, 2 daughters overseas, one in Belgium and one in Scotland. I would ask that you please turn off your mobile phones or make them silent. For anyone who didn't have the opportunity on the way in, could you please sign the COVID register after the service? My name is Judy Hullen and I'm a civil celebrant. I would like to welcome you to this funeral service and celebration of life for Mrs. Ivy Hateley, who was cherished mum, nana and auntie. This service is not to mourn a death, but to help guide you through this tribute and celebration of life for Ivy. Today you may experience difficult occasions, tears, and at your sense of loss, as well as some positive moments of reflection as we say goodbye to Ivy. Perhaps you have not been considering this, but honouring a life and acknowledging that part of yourself that you are laying to rest is a very significant act, because with the death of someone you know and love, something unique in you dies, and no one else can evoke in you the same feeling you had with the one who has gone. The family have asked that today be a thanksgiving and celebration of life for Ivy, as she lived such a full and happy life with her family. And she was such an active person, very committed and contributing wherever she could. We need to give thought to all that she meant to you and to think about the good times you have shared. All of us during our lives are faced with a devastating loss of loved ones, of people whom we respect and admire and who have played significant roles in our life. We all deal with grief in our different ways, and while we may never fully overcome the feeling of loss, we need to focus on the positive memories. Nothing can affect the happiness and shared life that you have had. The experiences and the relationship you shared can be recalled and celebrated, and these experiences cannot be altered by time or circumstance. What you've had together will remain as part of you forever. We regard death as the final and ultimate separation, and in a physical sense, of course it is. But in a sense, it unites us and brings us closer together as we grieve, learn to live with and accept our loss, and pay tribute to the life of the person we have lost. I would ask that you join me in saying the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Ivy Adeline Hateley was 86 years old. Ivy was born to parents Russell Ernest and Hazel Annie Dunn in Hayward, Victoria. She had 2 older sisters, Rhonda, who was unfortunately stillborn, and Verna, who was 7 years older than her. Verna was always Ivy's best friend and confidant, and Ivy loved her dearly. Ivy spent her early years at Mount Richmond, and then the family moved to Winnip. Unfortunately, her mother died when she was 12 years old, so she was brought up by her father. Ivy went to the Portland High School. She was very athletic and was especially good at high jump and long jump. When she left school, she worked as a housemaid. Ivy met and married Kevin Walter William Hateley at Kalangadoo in South Australia. As Ivy always took care of her father, he came to live with them. Kevin worked at various positions, farm management, mill work, and was the fire officer at Kimberley Clark over the years. So they moved with his work to Keith, then back to Kalangadoo, and on to Greenways, Tantanoola, Nelson, and in later years they built a new house in Mount Gambier, but moved to Millicent in the last 7 years to be near family due to their declining health as they got older. They had 5 children, Joy, Ron, Diane, Lynn, and Tim, their partners Jim, Julie, Tony, Rudy, and Wendy, and 14 grandchildren and 17 great-grandchildren. Ivy and Kevin were a loving couple, and they always made sure their home was a happy one and that the children had everything they needed. As the children got older, she went to work at Kimberley Clark for about 10 years. And this was great for her because it helped her to gain more confidence. She enjoyed modern technologies and picked up on computer and iPhone skills quickly and easily, which is quite an achievement considering her age. There was always a lot of love, singing and laughing when everyone got together, and it's a tribute to the grandchildren that they know the words to all the old favourite songs. Ivy lived for her family and her garden, and they gave her immense pleasure. The family have so many wonderful memories of their happy home and are grateful to her and the wonderful times they shared. Unfortunately, Ivy was widowed in the last few years. As well as coping without the love of her life, Kevin, her eyesight and health also deteriorated, and she struggled to be able to enjoy some of life's simple pleasures. But she was always loving and was happy and optimistic, thankful for the wonderful life she had led. I have a poem for you today which the family thought was most appropriate for Ivy. It's called My Mother Kept a Garden by an unknown author. My mother kept a garden of the heart. She planted all the good things that gave my life its start. She turned me to the sunshine, encouraged me to dream, fostering and nurturing the seeds of self-esteem. And when the winds and rains came, she protected me enough, but not too much she knew I'd need to stand up strong and tough. Her constant good example always taught me right from wrong, makers for my pathway to last my whole life long. I am my mother's garden, I am her legacy, and I hope today she feels the love reflected back from me. We have some eulogies from family members today. Diane?
In this, Judy's actually covered some of the things, but I'll read it again. I'm sure you don't mind hearing it again. Our dear mum, Nana and Auntie was born on January the 11th, 1935 at the Hayward Hospital, and then she lived at Mount Richmond in Victoria for her first 2 years of life. In 1937, due to her dad gaining work at the dairy farm, they moved to Winnip in Western Victoria. She attended the Winnip Primary School and then the Portland High School for 2 years. She was heard to say on several occasions that she did not enjoy school, except for sports, and in fact, she hated school. When Mum was only a young girl, Auntie Verna, who was 7 years older than her, had to move to Melbourne for work. Mum was devastated as Auntie Verna was not only her sister, but also her best friend. In 1947, with her mum and dad, they moved to Kalangadoo to live with Uncle Murray and Auntie Flo. Granddad gained employment in the local mill not long after moving there. Mum's mother had always suffered badly from asthma, and she tragically died at the age of 43 years when Mum was only 12. When Mum was 17, she found out she was pregnant, and due to circumstances beyond her control, she was unable to keep her baby girl, Helen Joy. Not long after, Mum met Dad, and on the 10th of January 1953, Mum and Dad were married at the Christchurch Mount Gambier, and they welcomed their firstborn son, Ron, later that year. The next year in 1954, they moved to Keith, where Dad managed a farm. This farm was 30 miles out of Keith, which is 48 kilometres to you younger ones, and was only accessible by driving on unsealed bumpy roads. Making the trip into Keith was an eventful trip which would have taken well over an hour. Mum was also very new to driving, as she had only learnt to drive on the farm at Keith on a tractor out in the middle of a paddock. She also felt very isolated as they had no phone and would have to drive for an hour if they needed medical help. So it would have been scary for Mum and very different to today. One particular day, Mum was coming home from Keith with only Ron as a toddler on board. She came upon some gypsies and she was so frightened that they would stop her. She took a corner a little too fast and Ron slid out the door, which can't have been latched properly, and she looked in the rearview mirror and there was Ron sitting in the middle of the road, uninjured, but crying his eyes out. There were no seatbelts back in those days. It took Mum a long time to get over it. During their time at Keith in April 1955, I was born at the Keith Hospital. Due to work commitments and looking after Ron, Dad did not get to meet me for a couple of days, and his first words upon seeing me were, "She looks like a skun rabbit." Well, I know I wasn't very big, but Mum thought I was beautiful. Thanks, Mum. In 1957, they made their way back to Clangadoo, where Dad found employment at the Woods and Forest. In July of that year, their little red-headed girl, Lynn, arrived and was known to all as Red, much to her disgust. She could be found in the clean washing basket, fast asleep and sucking her thumb with a pair of Dad's interlocked undies under her nose. Thankfully, they were clean. Mum loved baby so much that in 1959, her favourite child, Timothy Mark, arrived. Lynn remembers Mum saying about us kids, "Ron never stopped. Diane was always sick. Lynn, I can't remember. And Tim, well, he was perfect." After living at Clangadoo for 7 years, we all made a big move to Greenways, where Dad managed a farm. Then in 1966, we moved to a property called Pernodon near Tantanoola for 4 years. In 1960, Mum and Dad purchased a home at Kennedy Road, Tantanoola. Dad started work at APSA, with Mum gaining employment there approximately 4 years later. This enabled Mum and Dad to be financially secure for the first time in their lives. We all have wonderful memories of Kennedy Road, spending lots of Christmases together with our own families, and Auntie Verna, Uncle Fred, Gordon and Jennifer, whom we have spent many wonderful times with. Mum and Dad retired in 1993 and moved to their holiday house permanently in Nelson. Mum spent most of her time establishing her garden, which was her happy place. In 2000, Mum was reunited with Joy, and Joy and her family have become a very special part of our family. After 10 years, due to ageing, they decided to sell and move to a new brick home in Mount Gambier, a brick home, Mum's lifelong dream. Also at this home, Mum together with Dad were able to create a beautiful garden which they built from scratch and were able to enjoy for 10 lovely years. Due to Mum's deteriorating eyesight and Dad's ill health, they decided in 2013 to move to Millicent to be closer to family. 3 years after their move to Millicent, Mum sadly lost her life partner and best friend, our Dad. Due to her ill health and her failing eyesight, Mum spent the last 2 years and 10 months in Harcourt Nursing Home in Millicent. Mum didn't have an easy childhood after losing her mum at such an early age and not having her beloved sister living close by, but she ensured she gave us a happy childhood by creating a home and life for us. Mum made sure we never went without by selling eggs, making and selling butter, raising orphan lambs, anything to make ends. Mum showed her love by knitting, sewing and crocheting garments for everyone, especially her grandchildren and great-grandchildren. Most of them will remember wearing something Nan had knitted or made, especially on her pride and joy, her whiz-bang knitting machine. She enjoyed playing on the pokies and she always seemed to come out a winner, doing jigsaw puzzles and playing cards, all the while being very competitive. Mum so loved watching her crows play. Woe betide anyone if they called when her beloved crows were on. spending caravan holidays at Burrum and other locations with Dad and Auntie Verna and Uncle Fred. But she was happiest when her family all got together. She was the conduit for all our families, keeping us linked and in touch with each other. And all the while, all of us are knowing that we were all loved unconditionally. Thank you, Mum, for that unconditional love. We will love and miss you forever. Now I have something that Lynn sent. And she says, "Dear Mum, it breaks my heart that I can't be there today to say goodbye. I know you were sad when I left Australia, but you were always there just being you, quiet, reserved, accepting, reflecting, never judging. I thank you and respect you for that from the bottom of my heart. Our very special long-distance relationship only made us closer. No ocean could break the special bond we had, and I will cherish that forever. Rest now, Mum, and unfold your wings and fly. I love you more than you will ever know, Lynette." And this is from Joy. "We are so sorry we can't be with you all. Our thoughts are with you. It's been so special to me, Jim and the family, to meet Mum, Dad, and all of you. You took us in so lovingly. It was hard for Mum to speak about things, but what was important to me was being there to hold her hand and give her big hugs. Mum has been fighting illness for a long time, and I often said to her, 'You're like a cat with 9 lives,' and she laughed. We always enjoyed our visits to Oz and the wonderful family parties and celebrations. I will never forget my 50th birthday when Mum and Dad surprised me by appearing at our front door. Jim had arranged a piper who played Amazing Grace. Mum loved that. Mum was a beautiful lady, private and not wanting any fuss, until it came to who was in charge of the TV remote. That was Mum. We'll never forget her."
Do we have Lauren and Tom?
We just wanted to, I guess, share some of our favourite memories of Nana, and this included, I guess, some of our favourite times in our childhood. Many of those, I guess, shared with, particularly our cousins in the room. I guess starting at Tant, it was the endless hours of riding the bikes around the house, walking through the fern house with Nana in the garden, pinching carrots, playing backyard cricket. I guess Nana and Pa always involved, playing in the big gum tree, the boys and the ropes, walking up and down the hill to Tim and Wendy's. And then there was Nelson, fishing, swimming. I guess a special memory of mine was a fish in the microwave for breakfast. Nana's famous tomato and onion salad, which she always brought to all our functions.
Thanks.
I guess Lauren had the, I guess, building on from my favourite tomato and onion salad. There was always
The silver side. I loved her silver side. And even last year we hosted Christmas and I rang her and said, "Mine's just not quite right, Nana. What do I need to add?" And she couldn't quite remember, and then rang me back and said, "It's vinegar. You need to put vinegar." Moving on to Mount Gambier, just Tom and I had moved away at this stage, but when we came down for holidays, we'd always go and stay a night or two, and we'd be up until 2 a.m. playing skip-bo. We'd start with wine and end with a whiskey at the end. Start is really fun, but by the end it would get pretty serious, especially if Pa won.
accusations of cheating generally came out.
Yeah. Moving on to when they moved into the house in Millicent, we used to come down and John and I would go around and watch the Big Bash with them. Anything to do with sport they loved, and I think they've given us that love of sport as well. Not so much the Crows for Tom, but the Crows for me. I guess the one thing I'm going to miss the most is the phone calls where we'd share our love of the Crows, talk about the stuff that was happening in the nursing home. There's a photo that is my favourite photo that hopefully we'll get to see. I remember at Nelson, Nana said to me, I was talking to John and he said he's not going to get married till he's 30, Lauren. 30. I said, well, we'll see about that. And in this photo, we're having a laugh together and I said to her, Nana, I'm 27. Nana, she was always so caring, especially like Aunt Di said about her family, and always concerned for others more than herself. To even the last phone call I had the day before, that morning before, where she was so sick and she was telling me off, telling me to get myself better. I think, oh God. But we're just so glad that she got to meet all the great grandkids as well. Do you want to do that bit?
I guess, yeah, she was the head of the family and what a family she created.
Look at us all from Nana and Pa, and what a loving, caring family she's created. So thanks to them. And then we're the family that we are. Thank you.
Now we hear from Tamara.
So I have some messages from our cousins across in Belgium and Scotland. So from Belgium, Nanny, our gentle, calm, discreet and comforting Nanny, living on the other side of the world, has never made a difference to our relationship, and the love we had for each other never faded with distance. The love and kindness you and Pa gave created a beautiful family that we are so grateful to belong to, no matter how far away you were and how difficult it was for us to see each other. The time we did spend together was special, and you made sure we had beautiful memories. It always felt special to have you both in our lives, and it will forever. Like branches of a tree, we all grow in different directions, but we all have the same roots. Rest in peace now, Nanny. You did a great job down here. All our love, Elise and Ashley. From Scotland, although we're not there in person, our hearts and thoughts are with you all, and I hope that both Nan and Pa are making up for the time they were apart. Both were wonderful people, and you only need to look at the family they left. Sending you all my love, Andy, Lewis and Sophie. Bad news about Nana passing away last week. She will be sorely missed, free and will be free from pain now. I'd like to think that she'll be reunited with Pa. We are so glad we got to meet her and Pa, and we'll always remember cutting their grass during our stay and then both supervising events. Although we didn't spend a lot of time with her, we know she was a lovely lady, and we will cherish the time we spent with her. Love to you all, Graham, Kaz and Emily. And this one's from Adam. Hey, Nan. My earliest memories of you were wearing a black and white crazy pattern jumper, which I'm pretty sure you still have, and giving a little man with blonde curls big hugs and kisses. You were like mother to Simon and myself, looking after us after school each day when Mum and Dad were at work. You would ride your bike down to Tant Primary School to pick us boys up and take us home for the arvo, feed us and entertain us, let me turn the TV on and watch the sheepdog trials, until Pa got home and we would unleash on him. Haha, two crazy boys. You were always in the garden. It was such a huge garden. It felt like the size of a paddock when I was little. And the bloody stinging nettles through the garden, it was a given. You go into the garden and you're coming out with rashes. I'm so lucky to have been born into this family. Nan, you and Pa set such a good foundation and example to us. I have never known anything else but love and strong family values, which your son and my beautiful mum reinforced in me, and I am teaching my kids too. With my beautiful wife, of course. I am a very lucky man, which leads into how Pa doted over you. We saw that. Not that you would know we saw, but we did. And I love my wife just like Pa did you and you him. Showing love openly turned me into who I am today, which I think is okay. Writing this is making me think of just how much you did for us kids. God, you did a lot. I love you so damn much. We would have regular sleepovers, bath time, with the plug-in shower water hose off the bath tap and very shallow drawn bath. So we didn't waste water and was bloody freezing. Yourself or Pa would read from the blue bedtime storybook and then ask me who I wanted, Herbie or Ted. Herbie was my favourite. Nan, alongside Mum, you were the safest place in the world as a kid. Then the day came you decided to move, which I found out after you put a fence where the gate was, which was never closed. I discovered the fence by hurling myself down the hill on my red BMX bike and trying to go through the gate, which was never closed, and clotheslining myself on a chicken wire fence. You moved to our second home, Nelson, such a lovely house. I have such fond memories of that house and the river. Looking back, days were spent just trying to keep us boys busy and spending energy so we didn't kill each other. Pa would take us trapping rabbits in the morning, setting up the chicken wire traps he made. We never caught a bloody thing with those traps, but I think that was the idea. Pa knew we would never catch anything, but it was the excitement of the possibility of catching something. Nan, you would have us have breakfast ready, Wheaties or toast. We would then go fishing, and at lunch it had to be mayonnaise and cheese sandwiches. Your famous mayonnaise that to this day has never been beaten or even equalled. Amazing recipe. After lunch, we would play skip-bo. Simon and I would play footy or cricket outside and destroy your beautiful garden. You would open the sliding window in the kitchen and shout out at us to stay out of my flowers. Looking back, I would have shot my boys if they did that. 10 years later, I was 16 and my nan and pa had come to visit me at my under 16 state camp hotel in West Lakes. That was the highlight for me for the entire carnival, that my nan and pa came all the way to visit me, and I was so proud to be able to show you off to all my teammates and friends. I was always proud of who my grandparents were and wanted people to know that. 1 year later, I was 17 and just got my first car, a Holden VN Calais. I was so proud of this car and wanted to show my nan and pa. I took you and pa for a ride in my new car. The climate control wasn't working properly, but because I had fancy climate control, I wanted to use it. So I made everyone keep their windows up, even though it was 40 plus degree day and you guys were cooking. You never said a thing because you knew how much it meant to me. That right there sums you up, Nan. You always wanted the best for your boys and would even roast alive in a hot car if it meant that your boy was happy. I love you so, so, so much, and you raised a beautiful family. Love you forever. Your grandson, Adam. And this is on behalf of Sarah, myself and our families and dear old Kel, and I wanted to say thank you. Thank you, Nana, for starting a family that gave us all life, a family that you were so proud of and that brought you great joy. Thank you, Nana, for your quiet humility and unassuming ways, for showing us that sometimes saying nothing is the best thing to do. Thank you, Nana, for your listening ear and kind words and for giving us your time when we just needed someone to hear us as only a Nana can. Thank you, Nana, for your creativity, for all of the woolen goodies and crochet that we have worn or draped around ourselves, our babies, and then our babies' dollies, or our beds, or used to adorn our cupboards or bedside tables. Thank you, Nana, for showing us how to be frugal and appreciate the old ways of doing things. I'll never forget you asking, how much toilet paper did you use? Sense of humour and your cheekiness. I was honoured and thrilled to have the chance to see it more and more over the last few years. Thank you, Nana, for seeing the good in all of us and telling us so often. Thank you, Nana, for your bravery and strength. It is something to aspire to. Thank you, Nana, for your stubbornness, a trait I think that at least some of us have inherited. Thank you, Nana, for your resilience and for helping me to learn it, especially when I was stung by the stinging nettles and I screamed even before you put the metho on them. Thank you, Nana, for your love of music and for enjoying it even when we sing off key. Thank you, Nana, for your green thumb, for inspiring us with your ferns and numerous gardens. We can only hope that our thumbs will one day be as green as yours. Thank you, Nana, for loving us and our babies, for giving us guidance and support, for celebrating the good times and being there in the bad. Thank you, Nana, for the gift of time that we got to spend with you. We know that you worried that there were other things that we should be doing rather than being there with you, but there was no other place that we would rather be. Thank you, Nana, for being our Nan, Nana, and Nanny, for being so much to so many. Thank you for caring, for loving, and for being you. I'm sure that Kel and Pa have welcomed you with open arms and that you will look down on us often and whisper in our ears when we need to hear your voice. We love you, Nan, and we promise we will take care of each other, just like you asked.
I have a poem I'd like to read to you, which is entitled Her Journey's Just Begun by Ellen Brenneman. Don't think of her as gone away. Her journey's just begun. Life holds so many facets. This earth is only one. Just think of her as resting from the sorrows and the tears in a place of warmth and comfort where there are no days and years. Think how she must be wishing that we could know today how nothing but our sadness can really pass away. And think of her as living in the hearts of those she touched, for nothing loved is ever lost, and she was loved so much. The family have put together a photo presentation which they'd like to share with you. You can also use this opportunity for a time of reflection of your own memories.
The scene below, the creek and the creaking old mill, Maggie, as we used to long, long ago. The green growth is gone from the hills, Maggie, where first the daisy strong. The creaking old mill is still, Maggie, since you and I were young. Oh, they say that I'm feeble with age, Maggie. My steps are much slower than them. My face is a well-written page, Maggie, and time all along was the pen. They say we have outlived our time, Maggie, as they did a song that we've sung. But to me, you're as fair as you were, Maggie, when you and I were young. They say we have outlived our time, Maggie, as they did a song that we've sung. But to yours fair as you were, Maggie, when you and I were young. When you and I were young.
We would like to give thanks for Ivy's life, for the wonderful and caring person that she was. She was kind and happy, and it showed in her everyday life in the way she was. She cared about her family and did all that she possibly could to make life a much better place for those she loved. As Ivy's body is going to a private cremation, I will say some words of committal for her now. Today we commit Ivy's spirit to eternal rest, and we bless her coffin with pleasure and comfort, for she is now at rest. We say to Ivy, thank you for all you have gifted to us in your loving life. The good you have shown us, we will show to others. We will always be thankful to have had you as part of our life. We release you now to the next part of your spiritual journey and to your final resting place. Ivy's vibrancy for life and being with people remain. We are thankful to have known Ivy as a devoted and loving wife, mother, grandmother, and great-grandmother. Ivy has touched you, and you will think of her in your daily lives. The love you feel for her is in your hearts, and she will journey on with you throughout your lifetime. That's the end of the service. Thank you.
The sea, my desire is always to be on the inside. All have I traveled, and what I see, darkest and mountains, with valleys of green, past painted deserts, the sun sets on fire, and it carries me on to a more looking time. All looking time, all restoring from the sea. My desire is always to be here on looking time.
Ladies and gentlemen, before you leave this afternoon, if you would like to take a flower out of the casket,